Today, Mike Perry is set to challenge Jake Paul as the replacement for Iron Mike Tyson. Also, what about Robert Whitaker stepping in the main event of UFC Saudi Arabia against Ikram Aliskerov? Where's Hamzat Chimaev? Is it food poisoning? Are there other issues? I'm not sure. Plus, Johnny Walker is fighting. And Volkan Ozdemir. No, I'm just playing. Join me for today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. Right back with it. It's your boy, Matt. Today, we're going to be going over some breaking news. As well as we're going to talk about UFC Saudi Arabia. So let's start out first with the breaking news. That's my little breaking news noise if you didn't know. Jake Paul is set to step into the boxing ring, the squared circle, with Platinum Mike Perry. We went from Iron Mike Tyson to Platinum Mike Perry. And I am all for this fight. I'm not excited in the slightest for Nate Diaz and Masvidal. I haven't been excited for quite a few of the recent Jake Paul opponents. Just ain't really been my deal. I didn't enjoy Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz that much. You know, Nate Diaz didn't really go in there and take the fight to him. But this right here, I think this is the chef's kiss as far as Jake Paul fights go. You know what I'm saying? So let's jump off into this real quick. So we have Platinum Mike Perry, who's going to be making the jump from BKFC, Bare Knuckle Championship, and he's going to step into the boxing ring with Jake Paul. First off, let's talk about the build. The build to this fight is going to be tremendous because Mike Perry is the kind of guy that it would be hard for Jake Paul to troll and it not be entertaining. One thing about Mike Perry is he's not going to react to anything Jake Paul is going to do in a way that a regular person would react to it. He's going to react to it in a crazy way. It could be a violent way. It could be a funny way. I mean, this is the dude that wiped boogers on the jacket of Luke Rockhold and said, "You're the booger man now." I mean, bro, this is what I'm talking about. The build up for this should be great. Also, let's talk about the fight. Mike Perry is one of the younger fighters that Jake Paul has fought thus far or is going to fight. Definitely a lot younger than Mike Tyson, that's for sure. But at the same time, a lot of the time, Jake Paul fights fighters that could possibly expose him as far as with the hands. Generally, he's fighting older fighters or fighters that are, suspectly chinny, you know what I'm saying? So they're a little hesitant, a little tentative to move in close, close the distance, go into the pocket with Jake Paul a lot of the time. You know, Jake Paul is definitely not the best boxer at all. If you really consider him a boxer, which I do, not high class, top of the line, but he is a boxer. With that being said, Mike Perry doesn't fight with the style where he's going to wait on the outside, kind of, parry a little bit, pun intended, sticking with the jab move. He will do those things, but he generally is going to do that for a few moments, a few seconds, you could almost say, of the fight. Then followed by a furious barrage of punches collapse in the pocket. So in my opinion, this is going to be a great fight. Now, with that being said, I'm not picking a winner or anything right now, but I think this is going to be a good fight. Probably going to be one of the more action-packed fights that Jake Paul has been in recently because, Mike Perry, since he left the UFC, every time he goes out there to fight, he goes out there for blood. He's fought in boxing matches, and of course, he's fought in a ton of bare-knuckle fights. So with that being said, bro, It's going to be a very interesting fight, as well as we could get Boogerman comments. And what more do you want than a good Boogerman comment from Mike Perry? So, nevertheless, I'm all for this. I'm happy about the new matchup. I was a little worried about the matchup against Mike Tyson. Who knows how that was going to go? Plus, I didn't really want to live in a world where Mike might take a L to Jake Paul, given on how it plays out. Nevertheless, shout out to Mike Perry. He steps up. He's going in there with Jake Paul. So now let's move over to UFC Saudi Arabia, which goes down this Saturday. I almost said Saturday night, but it's probably going to be a midday card. Looks like it's going to start maybe around 3 p.m., or at least the main card. In the main event of this show, we have Robert Whittaker stepping in there with Ikram Aliskerov. Now, originally this is supposed to be Khamzat Chimaev, but Khamzat is pulled out of the fight. You know, there's a lot of rumors going on. Is it food poison? Is it some sort of autoimmune deficiency? What does the man have? We don't know. What we do know is that Khamzat's chances of winning a championship get more and more narrow over time. For one, he can never really fight in the States, and I don't know what's going on with that, but he hasn't fought in the States for years. And you can make bets and place bets or have your guesses on that one. Number two, he's not active enough. And the UFC is not going to want this man tying up a championship when they need at least one championship fight, generally once every month, sometimes twice a month, depending on pay-per-view schedules, or two title fights on one show. So they're not going to want to tie up the middleweight championship while they're waiting on Khamzat to be able to be ready to fight again. Anyway, so Aliskerov, who was supposed to fight on last week's show in the Apex, he gets pulled. He's going to fight Robert Whittaker. Straight up, I got Robert Whittaker in this. Robert Whittaker, when you look at him, he's top 3, top 4 middleweights of all time. He's up there with Anderson Silva, Israel Adesanya. Robert Whittaker is that dude. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I got Robert Whittaker to go out there and get the win. I think he beats him for the most part in all areas. I mean, maybe Aliskerov has some things in the grappling, wrestling region that maybe Robert Whittaker hasn't seen just yet, but Robert Whittaker's accomplished everywhere, so I got to go along with him to get the win. Now, in the co-main event, we have Sergey Pavlovich stepping back into the octagon with Alexander Volkov. So Sergey coming back after that loss to Tom Aspinall. Given the upside of Tom Aspinall and how good we all believe that he is, you can't really hate, you can't really shade on Sergey Pavlovich for taking that loss. So with that being said, by all counts, I feel that he should go out there and should beat Alexander Volkov. I think that he's going to be strong enough to be able to take any of the long-rangey jabs from Volkov. And if it goes into the pocket, I would go along with Sergey Pavlovich in that exchange, because I think he can close the distance and kind of get so close, because he has I believe he can get in so close on Volkov that Volkov, once that pocket collapses, that range is no longer a factor. And once you're in close, then it becomes a firefight, and I would choose Sergey Pavlovich in that. So I'm going along with him to get the win. Next, we have big Kelvin Gastelum, who is maybe mid-sized Kelvin Gastelum, because he's back down at welterweight. He's stepping in the octagon with Daniel Rodriguez. Here's the thing. If this was the Kelvin Gastelum from years ago, the one that took Israel Adesanya to the limit, could have beat him when he dropped him and knocked him up against the fence, but he had low fight IQ, so he chose to try to grapple instead of standing and finishing the man while he's in the corner of the cage. Nevertheless, if it was that Kelvin Gastelum with the good boxing, the good wrestling, I would go along with him, but it's not. I'm going to go along with Daniel Rodriguez. I mean, I wouldn't be necessarily shocked if Kelvin got the win, but it's kind of hard to pick Kelvin nowadays, so I'm going along with D-Rod to get the win. Next, we have Muhammad Naimov stepping in there with Felipe Lima. On this one, I'm going to go along with Naimov to get the win. I definitely think that he looks like the better prospect in this. I'm gonna go along with him to get the win here. Next, we have Johnny Walker to go out there and fight Volkan Ozdemir. So for this one, I'm gonna be a little sneaky. I'm gonna throw in a little trickery in this one. I'm gonna go along with Volkan Ozdemir because I think at this stage in Johnny Walker's career, man, he's a hard dude to bet on. Shout out to DraftKings. Holla at me, DraftKings. Doing the Lord's work. I'm advertising, y'all. Holla at me. Matter of fact, MMA. But it's kind of hard to go along with Johnny Walker nowadays. I mean, at the end of the day, the man strikes with a lot of power. He's a very unorthodox style, so you never know what angles, what direction he's coming from. But man, Ozdemir, he sticks with the fundamentals. He's a very basic fighter at this stage in his career, not quite as dynamic or doesn't seem as powerful as he was early in his career when he was no time Ozdemir, you know what I'm saying? But with that being said, dude, I think I'm going to lean toward Ozdemir to get the win. I think he'll be able to go out there, press Johnny Walker back up against the cage to kind of alleviate all of the weird strikes and kind of grind him out, maybe take him down to the ground using the cage and keep him flat on the ground and, do Ozdemir things and cruise out a 3-round decision. So I'm going along with Volkan Ozdemir to get the win there. Next, we have Shira Magomedov stepping in there against Jolton Luderbach. I got Shira all day. I think, as far as he goes, the stand-up, I think is definitely going to be comparable to Luderbach. I know Luderbach is big as far as karate and kickboxing, things like that, but I'm going along with Shira to be able to do his thing on the feet and stop him. I think he's going to stop Luderbach either in the first or second round. Moving on, we got Nasrat Haqparast stepping in there with Jared Gordon. I'm going along with Nasrat. He's got Faraz Zahabi in his corner. I mean, the man always goes in there, good strong jab, good check hooks. He goes in there, he follows his game plan generally to a T. He seems like he's gotten back into good form, good shape. So I'm going along with him to get the win. Next, we have Renat Fakhretdinov stepping in there against Nicholas Dalby. I'm going along with Renat. I think Renat is much better on the feet. He's a very unorthodox striker because I feel like primarily his biggest strength, of course, is grappling and wrestling, keeping his opponent flat to the ground in top pressure. But he definitely, he could definitely pack a punch on the feet, especially if he gets you up against the cage. I'm going along with Renat to get the win there. Nicholas Dalby, generally, he's got that endurance. He's a very durable fighter, but I feel like Renat is just as durable. So I'm going along with him to get the win. Next, we have Kung Ho Kang stepping in there against Moon Gafurov. I'm going along with Gafurov. I think Gafurov packs dynamite in his hands, and I'm going along with him to get the win. Now, I will say, if this gets out of the first round or halfway through the second, then you could probably place some last-minute late bets on Kung Ho Kang, because I would definitely favor him in the stretch of the fight. But first half of the second round, I've got Gafurov, so that's who I'm going along with. Next, it's the man with the name. We got Magomed Gazjusalov stepping in there against Brinson Ribeiro. I'm going along with Magomed to go out there and get the win. I think it's going to be a firefight between these two men because Magomed is definitely no slouch on the feet. Don't be distracted by the name and think it's going to be all wrestling. As well as Ribeiro, of course, this man packs Thor's hammers in both fists. You know what I'm saying? He's got 2 fists that have been pulled. His fists are gone. And in return, on his nubs right here are 2 hammers. And he's bringing the power and the fury of Odin, is what I'm saying. But I'm still going along with Magomed to get the win. Let's move on. The first fight of the night, we have Xiao Long stepping in there with Shang Ho Lee. let's take a look at something. So this is the first appearance of Xiao Long. What about Shang Ho Lee? Oh. So this one, I'm going to be honest, I don't really have a lot of info on either one of these guys. I'm going to lean toward, let's see. Well, let's see. So Long is 2-1. Lee is 2-0. I believe that Lee is going to have the reach advantage. I believe. So I'm going to lean toward Shang Ho Lee from South Korea to go out there and get the win. So nevertheless, that is UFC Saudi Arabia, as well as my reaction to the recently signed fight between Mike Perry and Jake Paul. So I appreciate you guys checking out these videos. Please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what your picks are. Let me know what you think about the main event. Let me know what you think about the Johnny Walker fight, just so I know where to lean when I'm betting. But I'm going to fade Johnny Walker in this one. Nevertheless, let me know what you think. And I do want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.